said Jet here. Welcome back to the stream. 2 streams in 1 week. What the what? Yeah, probably shouldn't get used to it, but hey, we are live down here in Miami this morning, well, afternoon now, I guess, Eastern time. And just got a short one today. Miami down to Cancun, relatively short anyway for a 7.5, just an hour and a half of flight time. And today we're actually going to the so finally got the Mango Studios 75 sound back. I do find it hard to continuously spend money on the on XP12, but you know, it's only same we can really use to get 75 fixed, so it's kind of what I do. But that being said, we'll test it out. I'm really curious to see what it sounds like. Yeah, so let's see. Plan on leaving here in about another half an hour or so. I think weather-wise it's supposed to be good down here in Cancun. I actually haven't really even looked. I know down here in Orlando it's kind of a rainy, shitty day, so it doesn't look to be that way in Miami. Where's my weather? There's so. Where's Miami's weather? Right here. Currently, 8 watts of taffy. METAR says light winds out in the northeast, few clouds, scattered at 12, and warm. Looks about right. Whoops. Pretty much what we're seeing out here right now, so that about checks out here. So what did I see for Cancun? Winds are calm. Yeah, excuse me. We got towering cumulonimbus and scattered 1,000 or scattered clouds at 8,000 feet there. So kind of the norm for Cancun, but let's go ahead and hop in the aircraft. I got her started up to the point where we would, maybe not. It's cold and dark. Jenner obviously wouldn't find the airplane like this, but we'll go ahead and run through the startup process here really quick. So battery switch on, snap out power to auto. This APU gen should be on already, as should be our bus tie switches, utility buses as well too. So it's the same thing with the left and right engine gens. Before I set the power, gear down, alternate flaps to normal, speed brakes, parking brake. Whoops, parking brake's not set. I'm forgetting something, I'm sure, but that's good enough here. Let's go ahead and turn the power on. And I tell you what, we'll go ahead and run through the pilot flying's procedures here. So let's go ahead and turn our RSS2 nav, yaw dampers on, EEC switches to on, and close those guards. Left and right engine, gen or hydraulic pumps on. Let's see, electric panel is good there. Emergency lights armed. Left and right limiters on. I'll take this flag. So starter 2, starter selector to auto. For some reason we've got fuel in a center tank here. I don't like that, so I'm actually gonna go ahead and change that before we add any fuel on board here. Apply. There we go. Let's see here. Any ice is off. Position lights to on. Window heats left forward and right forward and sides on. Smoking, seatbelt signs on. Auto rate to set to that arrow there, and altitude, field elevation is 22 feet at Cancun. And 20 will work. Auto 1, selector there, equipment cooling, we'll keep that to not alternate, whatever the opposite of alternate is, normal. Let's go ahead and open this cabin door as well too. or flight deck door rather. We can test lights. And whoops, not that, but back here we should have some lights as well too in our control shut off valves here, but we do not. That's all right. Put these generally to like the 10 to, I said 10 to 12 o'clock position. Trim air on, left recirc fan on, isolation valve is open. That should be it for the overhead. Auto throttle on, flight director is on. Should be able to arm the left and or the LNAV and VNAV, but we can't do that here just yet, so we'll just pass on that. What's our runway heading is 092. Pretty sure our SID, the initial altitude is 5,000 here for the glaze for there it is 5. Alright, that looks good on the MCP. We'll come down to check the, nope, I'll put the oxygen mask on. Check the oxygen, how much we got here? We've got 1734, that should be just fine. Lights good. What is our meter setting? Weather 299.8. 98 above 1,000 feet. Let's move on down here. Let's see, hydraulic quantity is good. Oxygen's good, and oil quantity is good here as well to auto brakes RTO standby. Altimeter 299.8 and 98 on the skipper side as well, and we'll bug 1,000 feet there. Uncage this guy real quick. Reset that clock. We'll work on the FMS here in 1 second. We'll zero out our DH on both sides. Select the map mode there. Can't test our weather yet. I'll take ATC2 and boom. Not sure why we're in oxygen here. And that should be it for, last but not least, we'll do our modified takeoff configuration warning here. So we saw what flaps and parking brakes. That's what we do want to see. And go ahead and reset the utility buses here. All right, IRSs are flashing at us there, so that means, well, a couple of things. But in this case, I know it means we need to input that. All right, let's go ahead and program our route in here. So Miami to MMUN, American 24, 24, 22, departing off 8 right. What did I say it was? The glaze 4. To lulls. Activate that for now. Lulls to Yankee 196 to Kanoa. Inform Bravo 879 for the NOSAT, and paperwork does say direct to Cancun, but it's going to be the NOSAT 1 Bravo and the 1-2 left approach, X-ray. Left X-ray from Redug. See what this looks like. No sat, no sat. Hacho, lettuce, ampas. 50, 22, 15, Erdam, Redug. That looks fantastic. Alrighty. Let's get the weights right. So general, airplane, nope, ground, and got 176 board. It only maxes out at 170. Gives us a gross weight of 172. All right, let's see here. Looking for a gross weight of 167.9 and a ramp weight of 187.8. So we're gonna have to, oh, okay, add some weight here. So 66, let's do 1400-ish. 1400. Perfect. And then fuel wise, we are looking at 19.9. We'll just round that up to 20,000 even. For a gross weight of 187.9, paperwork says 187.8. That will work just fine. And that looks pretty optimal there. CG of 24 is pretty good. Let's see what this says here. Yep, about 24. And I think we've got everything we need. We'll just go ahead and load that up. And while that is loading up, let's program the rest of this here. Cost index of 45. And average cruise winds of, let me highlight this, 260 at 31. And step size, not IKEA, but 2,000 feet there, cruising at 36. And let's see, reserves. Source reserve fuel here. I'm gonna actually just add, well, let's see here. We don't need an alternate. I'll just add a reserve and contingency. How about that? We'll call it, what is that? 5145? 4.5. Alrighty. I think, yep, I think we're done loading here. So 0 fuel weight is 168. That works. Takeoff. Average is 42 here. Not average, but a number that's kind of like right in the middle. It's about 42 degrees there for the D rate. EPER 1.64. That should be just fine. We are departing off 8 right. How much? Let's see, we've got about 10,000 feet runway. We got plenty of runway here. So we'll go to flaps 5. And just to mix it up a little bit here, I think I saw the temperature, yeah, 31 degrees. We'll do an APU to pack. I don't know if that really matters here on flight factor and on X-plane in general, but essentially we'll run the APU on departure so we can just use the engine. So we're not using the engine bleeds. And we can just essentially use all the engine power for departure and not have bleeder actually help out, or we're not taking bleed air from the engines and using that to pressurize the airplane. We'll use the APU to pressurize the airplane initially, and then once we reduce the thrust here at 1,000 feet, then we'll cycle the what do you call it, engine bleeds back on, turn the APU off. But we do all that just to reduce the EGT for the engine, especially like on hotter days like this. So we'll do that. I don't know how much that actually plays a factor here in the SIM, but we'll give it a try. I don't have actually I've got top Top Cat, but I'm not sure how accurate those numbers are, so I'm just going to go with what it's given us here. So got a V1 of 121, and I think it programs all this for us automatically here. So V1's 129, VR is 136, V2 at 143, and if we go to index or approach, we'll get our flaps 5 speed and our flaps up speed here. So from flaps 30, we'll add 40 knots. That is 168. That looks like it's already bugged it for us. And then another 40 from 130, or for flaps 30 is going to be 208. If that makes sense. So essentially, once we are coming up to, we're about 10 knots away from. Is it 10 knots? I think it's 10 knots from 168. So essentially, once we're climbing, our speed is increasing from 158. We're bringing flaps up to flaps 5 by then. In between the flaps 5 bug and a flaps up bug, we'll bring the flaps up to 1, and by the time we should get up here, we should bring the flaps up to 0. And I had a captain show me this. So our flaps 5 speed is 168 here, so I'm just gonna reference 168 just in case if we were to have an engine failure, instead of trying to look down here and figure out what our V2 speed was here. I'm sorry, that's V2. Our flaps 5 speed. I know what a flaps 5 speed is up here, so I'm trying to figure out what that is down here. So in case we had an engine failure, then I know exactly what to bug after we've cleaned the airplane up. But oh, one V2 is already bugged for us up here, so fantastic. So let's see if we can arm LNAV and VNAV now. We can. And essentially, our pre-flight procedure is complete here. Is there any extras I kind of want to add on here? Let's see. Do we have any reporting points? It's not that long a flight. I don't see any here, so. All right, that's pretty much it, guys. So we are ready to brief here pretty much. Let's close some doors really quick. General operations ground. Oops, airplane. Let's close that aft door, and let's go and close the cargo doors here. And I do want to see if this APU sounds any different here. So let's go ahead and start this guy up. Okay. Respect. Not bad. Not too bad there. Are we up and running yet? Now we are. APU's up and running. Disconnect that guy. APU bleed. And let's get some air in here. Since the cargo's door is closed, now we can turn that right recirc fan on, so it's not essentially sucking hot air from outside into the cabin, which is kind of just, it's essentially like, you're trying to cool the airplane all down, and you've got outside air coming in. So let's go ahead and brief really quick key. Let's see, weather-wise, I think we're good down here, right? Yep. Winds are light and variable. Scattered thunder, or scattered tower and cumulonimbus now, but still VFR. We can still come back into Miami if we need to. We're currently parked at Delta 47 here. I'll start 2 engines. I mean, I am on VATSIM right now, but I don't think anybody's really online. Yeah, I think there's one. Yeah, it's one aircraft that's just taken off recently, so we'll start both engines. We'll take. We'll go to spot 13, whiskey November or whiskey. We'll take whiskey Mike all the way down to Mike 1 here for 8, right? 10,500 feet plus feet of groove concrete. It's my assumption here. In the event we've got to abort anything below 80 knots, essentially, the big four, which is engine fire failure, if we get a wind shear warning, or if we don't think the aircraft is going to take off for some reason, we'll abort for all that. And then with the additionally, we will abort for window opening if we have unusual vibration or noise or anything like that. After 80 knots, then it's just the big four: fire failure, fear, shear. And the fear does include ATC telling us to stop on the runway for whatever reason. ATC's not here, so don't really have to worry about that. After 80 knots, or after V1 rather, we'll take our issues into the air, come back into Miami, call it a day. But since things are going to go just fine this morning, it's going to be RNF to Sea Salt here. Let's go to the legs page. Yep, Sea Salt. And essentially just follow the charted route here to all the way down to Lulls. Hopefully we can make it above 5,000 by Gator down here. If we don't, we've got issues. Beyond that, that's pretty much it, guys. So let's run through the pre-flight checklist here. Grab my checklist, pre-flight checklist. Let's get rid of this guy. Pre-flight checklist: interior and exterior inspections complete. Circuit breakers are checked. Takeoff warning is checked. Force quarter is checked. Fuel panel is set. Passenger signs are on. Pressurization panel is set. Mode control panel is set. Windows are closed and locked. Oxygen mask is checked. Instrument source selectors over here are checked. Altimeters, we've got 29er, 9er, 8. That is cross-checked. Flight nav instruments checked. Reserve brakes are off. Standby flight instruments is checked. And a reference switch is in the normal position. Ground proximity override switches are off. ICAS is checked. Is it? Seen a lot more messages on it than I really should be, but yeah, checked. Parking brake set, thrust reversers, or thrust levers rather, are closed. They're closed. Flight control switches are cut off. Radios and transponder. Ooh. Got to get my clearance here. Standby 1. Cover your ears. All right, squawk in 77 3. What did I just see? 35 35 35, and that is on ATC 2. That is set. Radar is off. We didn't test that, did we? We did not. So, if you guys watched the stream before, I've said the only two tests that we do on every flight is the weather and the takeoff config. And the weather test does not work unless our RSs are aligned. So, commence. Okay. So we should be seeing the little rainbow pattern here. Oh, we're frozen. Hey, and we're back. Are we back? Oh no. Are we back? Okay. Let's not do the weather test. If that's gonna make the sim crash, I don't think we're gonna need the weather. Wow, I'm not sure what happened there, but okay. Weather test is good. Which is good to say it's good. Um, let's. I think my TCAS is off here. All right. Let's continue the pre-flight checklist here. Flight attendant briefing is complete. Departure briefing is complete. Logbook QRHs does not apply here. And then fuel required. What did I say we needed? This is why I highlight this stuff. Block fuel is 9.9. We've got 9.9 on board. Good deal. Pre-flight check is complete. All right, guys, we are right at our departure time here of 16:32. Let's go ahead and. Oh no. Oh no. Well, there's that. Okay then. So we just froze up. Or just crashed to the desktop here. So cool. All right, guys, stand by one. Let's do this. Man, I really hope that's not because of the sound pack. Couldn't tell you the last time I had this stream actually, or the sim actually crash on me. Gotta explain. Well, hey chat, I hope you guys are having a better day tonight right now. Alrighty. Resume last flight. Let's see if we can knock out this pre-flight really quick here. Thankfully, there's not a really whole lot to load on for the route itself. It shouldn't take too long. Would be ideal though if you could just upload your route to the FMS. Which is obviously what we do in the real world. It's been a long time since I've actually entered the entire route into the FMS. Not since my regional days. Used to do that all the time. But I've gotten super lazy just because everything just loads up on the aircraft, and your route just loads up. You just have to input the SIDs and the stars if the airport you're flying into has one. Or you have been, Mr. Anderson? Interesting. This, yeah, like I said, man, this is like the first time that I've had the sim crash on me in a long time. But again, I don't want to say it's that sound pack, because I can't imagine that it would disrupt it that much. So. Now that I think about it, I'm not entirely sure if I'm running the beta version or if I'm running just like the 12.3. I remember for a while I actually wouldn't even use the sim just because I'm not sure what had happened, but I had this bloom issue that it seemed like a lot of other people were having as well too, and it was specifically just the 7.5 and the 7.6. I'm not sure why. It seemed like it wasn't happening on the 777. I don't own it, so I can't really speak on it, but it seemed like everyone was having an issue with the 777 online. It was just the 75 and the 76, so I wouldn't even use the sim for a little bit. So I kept on going back and forth between the beta version back then and the stable version, thinking that it was an X-Plane thing, but I'm not sure what happened there, because it was working just fine, and then all of a sudden, specifically just the fly factor 75 and 76 were just having that issue. So but yeah, ever since they came out with this newer, more stable version, it's fixed, obviously, which is why I'm using the sim again. But yeah, I haven't really looked on on the problems since, but I'm not entirely sure if it was an X-Plane thing or if it was a flight factor thing. So oh well. So we're gonna be a little bit delayed on the departure time there, but that's all right. Depending on Miami is sometimes in a real, oh my goodness gracious. Okay, not sure what that was all about. But what was I saying? I've ran into some serious traffic before out of Miami, so it's definitely not out of the ordinary, especially if there's weather down there. Alrighty, here we go again. Let's get rid of my scenery problems here. So if you'll excuse me, guys, I'm just gonna run through all this. If you have any questions as to why I'm doing what I'm doing, then just let me know. Otherwise, I'm just gonna go hit buttons here and get us started as quickly as I can here. Alright, let's go and start the APU as well too while we're at it. On, right, auto, position, window heat, on, auto rate, auto 1, we'll unlock that for now, and I'll just put this up to the 12 o'clock position. On there, isolation is open, like right there, auto throttle 092, 5,000 feet, like the right there, and we said meter is 2998, log 1,000 feet. Engage that guy, 2998, log 1,000 feet, reset the clock here, 98 here, auto throttle or auto brakes, RTO, quantity still looks good, oxygen pressure is good, and oil quantity is good there as well too. IRS position, bam bam, route to Miami. Lulls to Yankee 196 to Kanoa. Uniform Bravo 879. No sat. And execute for the no sat 1 Bravo. 12 left X-ray from Doug. Execute and bring the no sats together, and that's that. 36. We said 1400 here and 20,000 there. It's 2,000. And we'll load that while that's loading up. I'll finish the rest of this here. So BHs will zero out to 7. I'm sorry, to minus 20. Minus 20. Not gonna test that guy. Radios are set. Boom. Boom. And let's log back in here to that's squawking 77. 35. Mr. Anderson. I'm glad you want to fly the 75. Dude, it's a fun airplane, man. I just, you know, the platform. Again, I don't want to rag on, what do you call it, explain too much here, but, you know, I just wish the only thing I wish about X-Plane was that the environment looks a little bit better, which, again, these last few updates, it's really improved it, in my opinion, but, yeah, it's a fun airplane. Reading up on the Flight Factor support Discord, the DGDS plugin for the aircraft seems to be causing crashes. Notably, mid-flight seem to be working on you. Good to know there, dude. Thanks for that information. I had no idea. Okay. Well, at least I'm glad they at least know about it and they're working on it. Because it seemed like for a long time they're just not saying anything about it. So I was like, all right, if you guys don't care, then why should I care? I'll go fly FS220. All right, I think that is pretty much where we left off there, guys. Do I have my weights? And weights are, and we said 4.5 on the reserves. Your fuel weight should be 180 or 168. 188 gross weight total. 360 for the flight level. Cost index of 45. 260 at 31 for the average winds. And ICAO step size of 2,000 feet. Takeoff will derate to 42. CG gives us a trim of 3.8 with flaps 5. And V1 was 129, 36, 143, and big speeds of 168 and 208. Awesome. All right. We are good to go. Whoops, good to go here. Let's go ahead and clean the gate up and get on out of here. So I don't think we had this. Nope. So let's go ahead and is the door open? Door's open. Let's close the door first. And make sure the GPU is not. Nope, we still are. So take that off. GPU is disconnected. Fuel truck's gone. Waste unit chocks can be removed, and so can be the air. And let's get rid of the jet bay. Pre-plan to push. Good enough. Alrighty, how do I get rid of the jetway? On dock. Oh, I know an easy way actually. Boom. Door's locked. Like the door is locked as well. Auto. There's our jetway moving. Fuel pumps on and hydraulics. So we want to go right to left in order to avoid hydraulic fluid leaking from one system to the other. So it'll be right electric, hydraulic, then C1, C2, or C2, C1. I'm not sure if that part matters, but you want to essentially go from right to left. So right electric, C1, C2, C2, C1, whichever, and then the left side. And then I should have gotten us some air here earlier. Recirc on. Auto. Well, I feel like I'm forgetting something here. Pushback checklist. Pushback checklist. Doors are closed. Hydraulic panel set. Fuel panel set. Like the doors closed. Like the transponder. That's what it was. Transponder to alt on. And nobody's here. I'm not even gonna bother making a message here. So let's just go ahead and start pushback. I say that, but we do have traffic out here, but we're not there. We don't have any traffic on our ramp, so it should be just fine. What frequency is everybody on here? You, sir, are on. Can't tell here. I've got to go online. $18.3. Good enough for me. $18.3 it is. Good deal. Mr. Anderson, I started back into X-Plane after a decades-long break simply because of their better airliner operations. I'm happy to see the progress they've made and enjoy compared to their MSF. Me too. You know, I know some people argue that X-Plane 12 is dead. I mean, you still got tools, you still got Flight Factor, Magnite. Still got some airplanes there, man. And for the longest time, I did think the airplanes did fly a lot better here. Truth be told, these days, man, I honestly don't even really care. All right, brakes, please. Clear the bush. Yeah, these days I really don't care. It's like it's not the real world. Like even the real life Sims. Here's an example of how the real sim is not even like the real aircraft. So when I was at the my former regional airline, um, I thought I knew how to land that airplane, just because I was landing it really well in the sim. So sure enough, very first flight, we were I was out of Philly, we went down to Portland. Is it Portland? I think it's not Portland. There's a visual approach into there's like a harbor visual. Is that Portland? Or is it another P airport I'm thinking about there? But I think it was PWM, Portland, Maine. Um, the captain flew that leg, so I was just trying to hang on by the vertical stabilizer in the airplane there at the on the very first flight. But he let me take the next two legs, which was from Portland to Philly, and then Philly to Cleveland. The approach was just fine into Philly. We were landing on what was it, 27 or 26, right? Approach was just fine. So we get to about 100 feet, 100 feet, 50. And granted, now the RJ doesn't have like a radio altimeter where it counts down like the 7.5 does. So sure enough, I'm like, all right, this is about where I. All right, let's set the brakes here. Actually, I should have started the engine as well too. So anyway, so about 50 feet, I'm like, all right, this is about where in the sim I would chop the power down to idle and fly the airplane down. And I remember, so I chopped the power down, it's like 50 feet, power down idle. I'm like, oh, we're still flying, we're still flying, we're still flying. And I'm like, I'm just holding the nose off, and like I can tell, I'm like, oh my gosh, we are so much higher than I actually think we are. And sure enough, dude, till to this day, I still think that's my hardest landing ever. Because I mean, it's like 50, the airplane just came crashing down. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's not how it was in the oh, AP bleed. This is what happens when I'm talking while I starting the engines here. But yeah, to this day, I still think that was my hardest landing. So the difference was in the sim, for whatever reason, you get about 100 feet or so, and like the airplane would just start sinking. So you never really had that call it immersion, or that feeling of like actually flying the airplane into the runway. Whereas, find that out the hard way in the real world. I'm like, oh, okay, CRJ 900, gotta land it or fly it to the runway, essentially noted. So the next landing was was decent if I remember right. But I say that to say, so after a whole year of flying the RJ, I go back to the sim for recurrent, and I actually crashed the airplane. Like I had a red screen because I was waiting for to fly the airplane to the ground, where I forgot that in the sim it it gets to about 100 feet and then the airplane just starts sinking. So I actually got a red screen in the airplane just because in the sim just because I actually um, got used to flying the airplane in the real world and just doesn't fly like that in the sim. So yeah, XPlane 12. I would say the flight dynamics and all that stuff. It was or I should say it is a lot more realistic than Flight Sim 2020. I can't speak for 24 because I don't use 24 yet, but um, at this point I'm like, you know, I do this for you guys. I do this to relax. Like I don't really need it to feel like the real sim. So I use 2020 for the most part, and I'll land and the airplane does this little left right thing where I'm like I don't know why it does this. It's not realistic, but I honestly I don't really care. So all that to say, use XP12 if you explain 12 if you like explain 12. Use flights in 2020 and 24 if you like those. So, but I think what do you call it? That explain 12 is doing a good job here of catching up to the environmental side of things, which I think is the biggest thing, the biggest pro when it comes to X-Plane 12 and flights in 2020. But I'll stop talking here and let's fly this airplane. So after start flow, since we're going to do an APU to pack, we're going to leave the APU on. Any ice is not required. We don't have any fuel in the center pumps, and the APU, make that the pneumatic panel, is set as it needs to be. So here's an issue. The left and right, what do you call it? Engine bleeds are off, and for whatever reason, you don't get that here. But funny enough, I forget what the situation is. You get them later, which is not how it's supposed to be. So don't know why it's like that. But anyway, recall, we'll check that. Auto brakes RTO, and then let's bring the flaps to Fife. And we'll run through the after start checklist. After start checklist, engine anti-ice is off. Air conditioning panel is set. Recall check. Then auto brakes RTO after start checklist is complete. We are clear on the right. I'm sure it's clear on the left over there. So nose gear light on and step on the brake. And that doesn't take the brake off. So never mind. Where are we? We've got information. ATIS is Yankee. You know what? Nobody cares. Let's make a call here. Is this working? It is. Miami traffic, American 2422, taxiing runway 8 right via Whiskey, Mike, and Quebec at Miami. Not a whole lot of power needed. I will say that is one thing Flacco gets exceedingly well here. And again, it is an excellent thing too, where it comes to like the ground physics. I realistically, I mean, I think it just kicked the brakes off, and the airplane just started rolling. So it's just like that in this airplane, especially when it gets light. Flight controls, taxi checklist. Let's do that. So go straight down, up, left. Can't do the rudder because that's my tiller, but sure works just fine. All right. And if you guys remember in my tutorial, um, initially when you do the oxygen test, you'll write down the oxygen PSI number. That's because the only way for us to find out if the oxygen is leaking is if we actually look at those numbers to see if there's any difference. So when we do the taxi checklist, you want to take a look at see if those numbers have decreased any by like 100 pounds or so. I didn't write the numbers down, but that looks good. All right, we'll make a right here onto Whiskey and make a left onto Mike. And as we're doing that, we'll run through the taxi checklist. Taxi checklist, flaps. Flaps are 5 up here, 5 in the box, and indicating 5. Takeoff speeds, pull this up here since we can, and explain V1 is 129, VR is 136, V2 is 143, big numbers. Flaps 5 is 168, and flaps up is 208. Thrust, that is, we got D rate of 42 up there. Trim 3.8. And just like the 7.3, we're just gonna eyeball this. Doesn't, as long as it's close, you're fine. I usually find that I actually need to trim down after rotation in the real aircraft. Anyway, so close enough. And then flight controls, that's checked. Taxi checklist is complete. Is there anybody out here? Doesn't look like it. LNAV and VNAV are not armed for some reason. Notice that. You know what? While we're talking about it, let's go ahead and do the we do a like a abbreviated brief before we get to the runway here. So essentially just talk about the departure, and that's about it. So we'll go to the route page here, and we'll say, all right, so we're still going to Cancun. It's off of runway 8 right. On the Glades 4. Actually, I don't think I need to say that. Just RNAV to sea salt there. It is an LNAV and VNAV departure up to 5,000 feet. And do we have any speed restrictions? No speed restrictions, just an at or above at Gata. And again, if we can't make Gator way down here, then we got issues. So that's it for the departure brief. At some point down here, so I like to actually listen to the PA. If you click the PA and then you can like turn the volume up, you can hear what's actually going on in the you can hear the pre-flight what do you call it, video playing back there. And I like to listen to it just like on a low volume just to make sure that they're done with it before I ask the flight attendants to sit down. And the only reason I'm actually bringing that up is because if I don't do this right now, the flight attendant is going to keep bugging me on here. So safety demonstration. Oh, it's neat. I actually never knew it did that. You do get this in a real aircraft too. Now, granted, this button is like displaced in like a different position, but you do get the little PA in progress thing too. And dude, I've never noticed that. That's awesome. Anyway, so that's done. Let's do the before takeoff checklist. Runway position. It has not shifted here. It just says 8 right. And that should be all the way to the left here. And if you had like an intersection, it'd be like a slant. So it should actually be like this, like 808 right, all the way over here. And if we were like departing off of, let's see, like Mike 2, it'd say like Mike 2. So I'm not sure why it says the position shift here. Again, it could be a different box. I can't say that it's wrong per se. That's just not what I see in our aircraft. But anyway, running position is off of 8 right. It's full length inside and outside. Flaps. We want to verify. We've got flaps 5 here and flaps 5 in here. Reason why we want to do that is because generally we'll take off in any of these positions here is between flaps 5, flaps 15, and flaps 20, and that goes for the 75-300 as well. We want to make sure that actually says whatever flaps 5, flaps 15, and verify that against this because flaps 1 is actually a Boeing how to say this? It's a Boeing authorizes a flap 1 takeoff. So if you actually had flaps 1 up here, you wouldn't get a takeoff configuration warning. So you want to make sure that you actually have flaps 5 set in there. But anyway, flaps 5, we've got 5 and 5 and indicated here and indicated in the box. Navigation difference complete. Transponder. Now I'll flick this all the way to the TA. Whoa, TA RA. And flight attendants have been notified and acknowledged. And PAX. Generally, if we weren't doing AP to PAC takeoff, we would have the engine bleeds off, the APU would be off, isolation to be off, and both bleeds would be on. The APU and the isolation valves would be closed. But since we are doing an APU 2-pack takeoff today, APU is still running. Prior to taking a runway, and since no one's here, we'll just go ahead and depart. We'll shut off the isolation valve now. We should get oh, I sure did cut off there. I don't know what happened. Guys, I totally forgot to turn the sound back on there earlier. Whoops. Jeez, that was completely botched. Sorry about that, guys. I totally forgot to. I got these stupid blinds that are like automated, so yeah, the dynamic blinds. So there goes my window view. This Bob over here doesn't want to look out the window, even though he paid for it. Seriously, that's like the most annoying thing. Just like finally getting an airplane. Fortunately, you can't get a window seat, but the person next to you, who you can assume paid for it, they go and close the window blind there. I don't understand it. Anyway, we'll continue climbing up to our cruise altitude, 36,000 feet. It's a whisper chat. It's the, what do you call it? The Mango Studios. That's pretty good, man. I don't know why I just saw it. This thing's been like, it's been on the market for years now. But again, I'm iffy about spending cash on XP12 right now. I hate to admit it, but man, it's not bad. Not bad at all. All right, we are up to 10,000 feet here. Let's ding the flight attendants, and we can turn the lights off as well. I don't think I ever did the after takeoff checklist today. Oh, after takeoff, so flaps are up and off, landing gear is, or flaps are up, rather, landing gear is up and off, APD is off, backs are up and off, and yes, it's not. 300. So that's off. After takeoff checklist is complete. Yeah, I kind of botched that takeoff there for a second. It was... Oh, speaking of, so the EGT limits here, so, I can't say I've ever had this happen in the real world. I have seen it in the sim before, but this button right here, I don't know if you guys can really see it, it says max, indication reset. Before you reset it, obviously, maintenance, they would probably already know before you called them up, but you want to tell them, yeah, we exceeded the EGTs or the N1 or whatever, and that's what it says. And thankfully, you know, it's not something you have to remember, it just says it right there for you. But if you want to reset it, boop, just hit that button right there, and it's actually modeled, which is pretty cool. Turn that down. Let's see if we can get some of that smooth jazz in here. And no ATC down in Cancun, that's alright. Gator is a left turn to 239. There's 18,000. Climb checklist. Altimeter is 2,992. That is cross check, and climb checklist is complete. Lights are off. Good deal. Nice day down here in southern Florida. I live, we're about 400 miles north of here, and yep, that's pretty much what it looks like. A lot of those right now. Yeah, I think it's overcast too. Let me see. A little bit of sun out there, but it's relatively overcast outside right now. This is the part about Florida that like terrifies me. It's like, or I should say southern Florida anyway. It's like all of this right here is all city. When you get past, I forget which highway it is. Is this 75 south? Anyway, you get like west of this highway and it's just nothing but swamp. And the reason why I hated it, oh, and to answer somebody's question, let me see who it was earlier. Let's see here. Space Bear. You asked what was my path to the airlines. It took me a while. I took about 10 years, dude. I paid out of pocket to get from private to flight instructor. Then I instructed for a little bit out in Central Florida here, and I was going to mention, or I mentioned the flying over the Everglades, just because a lot of the training we would go out towards the West Coast here to do a lot of the cross country stuff. Every now and then we would go down to Miami. We wouldn't fly to Miami itself. We'd go down to Apalaca down here in our executive on the north side, and then we'd fly back. But a lot of times, just because of all the traffic between Fort Lauderdale and Miami, they would keep us super low, and often they wouldn't fly us like over here towards the coast, because depending on, generally it's like eastern traffic is going eastbound, so we wouldn't want to, if they were going to fly us over the air by the coast, we would stay below the Bravo, or like no lower than like 1,000. I'm sorry, we would be no higher than 1,000 feet or so. So you'd be like skirting the beach. But I don't think I ever did that. Usually they would keep us on the west side, and when they did that, it would be like well out here, still doing 5,000 feet because all the inbounds going into Fort Lauderdale into Miami. So we'd be like 3,000 feet flying over the Everglades. I mean, I was just not a fan of that at all. But after instructing for a little over two, I think it was like close to 2.5 years, then I went to the regionals for about 2 years, and then here I am at the big boys. And I have not tried the 777 V2 yet. I've got the PMG 777 for Microsoft Flight Sim, so that's kind of where I got my 777 fix there. Is it any good? Do you have it? Turn this down some more. 5CG? It's a good question. Here, how about this? I'm gonna... There, you can take a snapshot of that. Is it the best? I have no idea. It works for me. I'm actually going to turn this up and turn the sim volume down here. Let's do that instead. Sim's already pretty low. Ooh, there's that TNT airport. I thought that was a pretty funny abbreviation for an airport. I know there's some sort of significance about like World War II in that airport. I don't really know what all it is though. Does the Space Bird, does the VNav work on it? Yep. Yeah, the settings are decent. The only reason I was wondering is I just installed XP and I have a 3080, so I was trying to find a decent balance up here. I hear you. Yeah, let me know if it works for you, because I'm actually still rocking the 2080 Ti, and I mean it works just fine. But I don't think X-Planes doesn't really. It's not that hardware intensive as like 2020 and 2024. I didn't get it. it's like very realistic flight simulator or what? Also, it takes a very long to fly, right? Are you talking about my experience with the sim in the real world when I was getting my CRJ rating? VNAV climb seems to work great. It's on and off with the descent. As of right now, I don't have a calculated top of descent. You know what? Now I'm very curious if that's just an issue, or maybe not an issue, but just like a thing that Flight Factor has not figured out yet, because that's the same thing with this airplane, man. Like the top climbing is just fine, but when I get down to the when it comes to the descent, like even right now, let me show you. So, you know, that's more of an FMS thing. But what I was gonna say was, if I were to bug 250 here and 1,000 or restricted to 250 knots, it should delete the speed transition here, and it should just have this speed restriction of 250 knots and 10,000 feet. But what I was gonna say was, let's see here, econ speed is 296, and climbing at until we get to the Mach where it wants to cruise at 0.797. If I were to bug 300 knots and say 0.80, take a look at the descent. It says 238 and 0.748, right? If I go to climb, whoops, 0.80. Seriously? No, it doesn't even want to do it. How about 300 knots? Wow. Okay. Never even had this issue before. Yeah, we're still climbing. I don't get why we're... So what I was going to say was, so in the past, whatever I would bug here, so if I were to bug 300 knots and 0.80, it would change the descent on here, and then it would like wipe out all your speeds on the descent, which I mean doesn't make sense. So even now, let me see. I think we're limited to 280 knots on the descent here for the NOSAT 1 Bravo. Yeah, max 280, so 280. But since we're cruising at 0.79, I'm just gonna bump this up to 0.80. Can't even change that. Don't get it. Anyway, for cruising, there's VNAV, or speed and VNAV path. That all checks out, so we're doing good there. But yeah, just to go back to your point there, Space Bear, I don't know if it's just a company issue, because the VNAV on the descent here, it doesn't work the way it should, and honestly, that's the reason why someone had asked a long time ago for me to do an RNAV tutorial, and I haven't yet, just because the VNAV just doesn't. I tried it. I still have like clips of videos of me trying to work out the tutorial and whatnot, but like it doesn't work the way it should for me to like want to bother to make a tutorial, because it's just like the whole pre-flight procedure that I have right now when it comes to like doing the takeoff configuration warning. You don't push the throttle up and bring it back to idle like you would the 7.3. That's not how it works in the 7.5, but like that's what it does here. And when you do that, just like in the real world, and it does it in the sim, so credit to Flight Factor for that. When you do that in the sim, or in a real aircraft, excuse me, it would actually it load sheds the utility buses. So if you're on the ground, you're parked, you push the throttles all the way up, it's going to kick your utility buses off, and then your flight attendants are going to be like, hey, we've got no power, there's no personal TVs or whatever. So you just have to reset the utility buses, which is just fine, but again, that's not how it works in a real aircraft. Let me see here. In my tutorial, I said that you would actually hit this button here, the takeoff config. You just push it up for like a second, and you would actually get the configuration warning there. You would hold it, and you would see those warnings, but it doesn't look like it should here. So Again, not trying to bash Flight Factor here. I'm just pointing out what the differences are, I guess. You can't even change anything on your VNAV, just that page, just an empty black page. It is what it is, right? You work with it. If you can get the airplane from A to B, they're like, all right, that works. Let's go ahead and put it on the market. We'll figure out the rest later. Anyway, so as you guys can probably figure out, once you get to cruise, not a whole lot to do, but first fix, I do like to make a note of product page. What's our fuel? It says 15.9. Excuse me. And paperwork here says, let's go down to, is it Wigna? Yeah, Wigna. And it says 14.7, so we are, what, almost 1,000? Oh. Post or position report that will tell us our fuel from the previous position, which was, I thought it was 15.9. What does it say? 16.3. Anyway, so supposedly 16.3. So we're on the plus side here in fuel, and then lulls. Let's see, it says 14.1 in paperwork, lulls 15.6. So we got a whole bunch of fuel here, and then we're supposed to land with 9.4, and we've got 9.9 there. So we're on the plus side. So good to go there. How far are we from the top of the descent? We're still a little ways away. I don't even know where we are right now. Just off the coast. You should see Key West out there pretty soon. So let's see, how far are we from Key West? Is there a way for me to get some sort of ruler or something out here? No, I don't think so. Oh, there it is. In case you guys ever wondered, since I like to think I was a flight simmer first before I ever became an airline pilot. 80 knots. Oops, 80 knots. 80 miles. Generally speaking, I think you can see about like 80 miles or so, because I've looked for airports in like cities and whatnot. So say like you come up to like, I don't know, Vegas or something, and not necessarily at night, but like you can start to see like the airport or the city lights and whatnot at night. If you know where you're looking for, you can see it like during the daytime sometimes too. But I think like that's about the limit where this is, as far as you can see up into like the 30s anyway. Lulls after lulls, Canoa gets us into Havana, Unana, and we're out of Havana at Nosa. You'll have to forgive me, I'm not sure how to say the name there, but Narhe Khan. What I was saying earlier about the sim was that it's, yes, the flight dynamics are realistic, obviously it's FAA approved and all that stuff because it has to be, but when it comes to just how the landing physics are, and it's not just, it's not like the entire like the approach and all that stuff, it's just when you get down to the close to the ground, about 100 feet or so, for whatever reason in the sim, it would just start, the sim would just start to sink the airplane, and that was all I was trying to say. Like, that's the difference between just the sim and the real aircraft. In the sim, it would just automatically like just start to sink the airplane, so you would start your flare a whole lot higher, in the sim than you would in the real world. And what I was saying earlier was I got used to, obviously, you know, when you're getting your rating, you're doing all the flying in the sim until you start initial operation training or experience, your IOE. And I got used to flying the airplane, landing the airplane in the sim. So sure enough, when I got in the airplane for for my very first flight, and I was trying to land it, you know, just like I did in the sim. So I started flying at 100 feet, and obviously that didn't work out too well. So, and then I was saying that I got used to flying the airplane like you know, you fly the airplane in the real world, so obviously you're going to get used to flying it. So when I went back into the sim, I crashed it the first time just because I forgot that it would just automatically start to sink the airplane at 100 feet. And, you know, I got used to actually flying the airplane 50 feet above the runway before I would start to flare. So that's all I'm saying. So that was the difference between just the sim and flying the airplane in the real world. Again, that was the whole point of me bringing that up, was just that, yeah, X-Plane, I would say that the physics, they're definitely a lot more, I think they're more polished than 2020. Again, I can't speak for 24 because I don't use it, but I think they're more polished in 2020, but I use both because, again, I just, at this point, I don't care. I use flightsimming for entertainment more than anything these days. Granted, when the Bluebird does come out, it's too bad it didn't come out before this month, because I actually do have recurrent training here coming up towards the it's like the middle of the month, end of the month. It's like the middle towards the end of the month here, so I'm gonna have to start hitting the books for that, and essentially all we're gonna be doing there is just a whole lot of worst case scenario stuff, you know, single engine fires at V1, engine failures V1, landing IFR, single engine, and what I think is probably the most difficult thing is going around in IFR on a single engine. That's really tough. So I got all that to look forward to later this month. And it would have been nice to have tried some of those flight factoring in the sim, just to kind of get the procedures. I don't want to say get the procedures done, but you know, just have a little bit of practice, because I've already looked at my schedule here. I think I'm flying. I finished a 4-day trip 2 days before I'm supposed to go to the sim. So it would have been nice to kind of practice some of those, but you just kind of have to go in there and do it. And honestly, I mean, the instructors, they do a really good job of kind of putting you at ease and just saying, all right, you know, it's just stuff you've done before in the past. You just got to do it. Let's see here. So next month, I'm trying to. I don't have to go flying again until the 10th, which for streaming and simming purposes is really nice. But I am actually trying to shift a 4-day trip that I've got on the 10th, from the 10th through the 13th to the 6th through the 9th, just so I can work throughout the weekday, which, you know, obviously would kill any chances of me streaming next week, but at the same time I get to have the weekend off with the girls, so that would be ideal, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen either, just because coverage and whatnot. Alright guys, this airplane is beautiful. really got it right back then. You know what's funny is, so the what do you call it? The Airbus, the Neo. I can't speak for the XLR. I think the XLR is probably the closest thing to the 7.5, but the Neo, even some of ours, when it comes to just performance, the 7.5 still beats it. But there are some routes where we had the Neos replace our 7.5s, and depending on the wind, whether it was in a too strong a headwind or what, those Neos actually couldn't make it. I'm talking specifically from like from the West Coast out to Hawaii. So they had to actually get some of our 7.5s to do those routes, since the Neos couldn't actually make the trip just because of headwind. So I don't know what Boeing did way back then, but they got this airplane right. And it's not so much like how the airplane climbs, like it climbs well, but like when it comes to how long it takes to get to like a cruising altitude, honestly there's not a whole lot of difference from this and like the CRJ, because the CRJ would take, I don't know, anywhere from like 20 minutes to, if you didn't get held up on the climb or anything like that, it'd take up anywhere from like 20 minutes, plus or minus, call it 3 or 4 minutes to get up to your cruise altitude. And that's more or less the same with like any other airplane. So it's not so much it's like climb performance, it's just how it can get in and out of like high altitude airports with short runways, fully loaded, and the airplane's like, alright, just put the flaps down to 15 degrees or 20 degrees, just get out of here. And like the airplane just doesn't, it just flies off the runway. You can't do that with like your 737-900s and your Airbus 321s, because the 321, even the Neos, yeah, the engine gives you more power, but it's still that like 321 wing, which is essentially a 320 wing. So you've got a smaller wing on a larger airplane, but yeah, your engine is more powerful. So it's not like a airplane like this where it's just like completely, it's like one package where the engine combination with the wing combination just fits it perfectly. And supposedly we're going to be getting, I shouldn't say supposedly, we are retiring a lot of our airplanes. Was it my last trip? I think it was my last trip where I just had a 2-day trip. But anyway, I was about to push back, and I noticed that the airplane next door to me was going to Victorville. I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding. I told the captain, I said, look, this is literally the last time you've seen an airplane. It's going to Victorville. It's going to be out there in the desert for the rest of its life if it doesn't get chopped up for parts or anything like that. That's sad. But kind of the reason why I wanted to fly it. When you go to the majors, you have an option of what you want to fly, and obviously you kind of have to just base that on whatever your priorities are, whether it's your base you live in, and if you just really care about the airplane. But they told us when I joined the airline, they said, pick the airplane you want to fly first, worry about the base later, just because at the time, this is like after COVID, then we kind of had that little bit of a hiring boom. They said there's so much movement right now that you can get the base you want, so just kind of figure out what airplane you want to fly first. So I did have a little bit of a choice to make there, because my old brother actually happens to fly for the same airline, and he's on the 7.3, he's a captain, and with PMBG for as many years as I've flown it before, I was like, you really know the 7.3 in the sim world. It's not going to take you a whole lot to learn it in the real world, so you can fly with your big brother right there. Training shouldn't be all that hard. But I had an option to fly to 75 and 76, so I was like, ooh. And the base was out in LA too. And again, I live out in Florida, so I was like, oh man, I could be based in LA, which is really, really far. And I could fly to 75 and fly to 76, or you could be a little bit closer to home, flying to 73, and you could have a chance to fly a big girl. So obviously, I said 75, 76. So, but yeah, we'll fly a big brother later. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. So once they finally decide to get rid of this airplane, are we returning, and we should be with the headlander now. Again, nope, special procedures. You just have to. There's a little bit of a language barrier. They generally will clear us. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do that. So what they like to do is they'll clear you once you enter into their airspace. They generally will just clear you to like the last fix of at their airspace. So I'm just actually just going to go direct to NOSAT. Just because I can. I like it. And we'll execute that. But, shoot, now I lost my train of thought. Yeah, 7-3, fly that later. As a matter of fact, I tend to do fly to 7.5 more than I do fly to 7.6, and it's just a base thing. We don't see a whole lot of 7.6s where I'm based at. And when I do, it's kind of a rarity. The last time I was on a 7.6, I want to say it was in July. Went out to Barcelona, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, it was just one leg. Just the way the airline worked, they actually deadheaded us over there, so I actually got to sit in first class, get paid for it, just to fly to Barcelona and stay there for 24 hours, just to fly the airplane back. And obviously the captain wanted to take the leg back, so I was just on the comms, so it's just like, you got paid for a 3-day trip, and you really only had to work 1 day. All I really had to do is just talk on the radio, so not too bad good. And I just noticed something. There's just like, sound-wise, it's like nothing but combustion here, but then you can hear like the engine intake. It's pretty cool. Not too shabby there, guys. Not too shabby. Do you guys know if it's possible to delete these routes here on Avigraph? And I guess in the end, it's really not a big deal. I'm just curious. There are a lot of tools on here that I really should probably get to know more in depth, but I just don't care. reminds me of what do you call it? That YouTube channel, that the Nomadic guys who do the not charter. Yeah, coffee casual.
For over 20.
Oh wow. You got a lot more videos on there. I haven't watched them in a while. I'm gonna have to check those out there. I have, yeah, Speed Date Films, thank you, yeah. Yeah, those, yeah, I love those videos, man. What's like impressive about those videos to me is like just all of the planning you gotta do to get just the airplanes from A to B, man. Like most I've ever done is just cross the Atlantic. And even then I'm like scrambling because realistically I've only crossed the ocean twice now. The first time was when I did my what we call TOEs, returns oceanic experience. So you do that just so you can get the the paperwork telling you, all right, yeah, you've done it, so technically you're qualified to do it. But like in all reality, is like I did it once. Like, do I really know what I'm doing? So sure enough, like I hadn't crossed the ocean until that was, man, honestly that's probably, I think that's been a full year. I want to say I did my COE way back in June of 2024, and then I recently went to Barcelona, like I said, in July. So I mean, it's been a full year since I crossed the Atlantic. But anyway, so I'm not really scrambling because all the information is in one position, it's one place, so you kind of know where to read and know what to expect as it comes up. But like, I wouldn't even know where to start. Getting some of these airplanes out of like Guam or some of these places that they're repoing these airplanes from and whatnot. Funny enough, the captain that I last flew with on that Barcelona trip, he was what did he say he was doing? Like United Nations flying or something. So he was going into places that were like out in the boondocks. And I remember he told me once about flying across like southern Africa, and essentially he was like, yeah, just tell us when you're on this other side or whatever, because there's literally no like communication in that airspace. And he's like, dude, like what do I do if like something were to happen? Like who am I gonna call? Like, yeah, that's a really good point. There's a whole lot of nothing out there. But like just having experience like that, man, that's gotta be pretty cool. Definitely comes in handy, I'm sure. It just makes you feel a lot more confident about going to places when you gotta bring something like that for us. Anyway, hope I get to that point in my career someday. I could see myself doing something like that towards the end of my career, when the airlines are about 65 years old, or 67 if that's what if they actually do get that push through. Or if I do want to fly that long, but once my airline career is done, I could definitely see myself doing something like that. If anything, just for like the experience, just for the little bit, just to kind of see other parts of the world. Even though right now this fleet, the 75 and 76, even though we do take it pretty much anywhere in our airline goes, because we take it on the Pacific routes, on the South American routes, and obviously crossing the Atlantic as well too, so I've got the opportunity, I guess, to go places, but my seniority is still, I literally just opened my first line next month, so actually know what I'm doing before the month's past previous months, but it's just like on reserve. I don't really know what I'm doing except for, a few days beforehand, so. But you make the best of it, it's just part of it. So, if I can hear me. Oh, geez, seriously? Wow. Okay, top of D is within 80 miles here. I'm sitting here chatting my butt off, and I didn't realize we're that close to the top of D. So let's review this really quick. So we've got no sat, max 280 between 20 and 22. So that's actually going to push that top of D even closer now. Let's do 280. I'm not sure why this isn't even in the box already, but turn this down a little bit here. 280, and then we're at 20,000 above, 22 below. Hacho, 250 between 18 and 20. Between 18 and 20. Lettuce Ampus below 14. UN 500 max 220 above 8. UN 522 above 6. 515 above 5. Erdan max 200 at 3,000. To Redug. Redug takes us straight to initial porch fix for 1-2 left, and let's see here, 110, 110.7, which course of 2 decisive, it doesn't even matter. So in a real aircraft, we would set the course here, and then I would just zero out. We go from 110, 108 to blank it out. If I were to open it back up, oh, actually it does keep the course, but it just doesn't keep the 0.7 here. So in the real aircraft, it would keep that 0.7. So all you have to do to bring it back up is just to select the 110 point or 110, because again that 0.7 would be there. And it just all depends on your crew. Some captains just they don't like having all the diamonds here while we're way out in cruise still, so we'll just blank it out until we get a little bit closer towards the airport. Some guys actually don't mind you putting on there and just leaving it there, so I like to blank it out, but again, I'll just have to make sure I put that 0.7 in there. But anyway, front push course 125. So it's across UN 532 at 1,400 feet there. D-Day, it's 250. So we would actually use the bug here to bug 250 feet, and every notch obviously is 20 feet, so just somewhere in the middle. It doesn't obviously have to be perfect, and it's a reference more than anything, especially on a day like today where it's visual. Pretty sure it's visual. Actually, technically speaking, it is IFR. So yeah, broken at 1,500 feet there. It says low cumulus. Yeah, even if it's technically IFR, you would still bug this. You really only use the DH down here and the EHSI, or the EADI, for your Cat 2 and Cat 3 approaches. So we just leave that blank that still, and we'll still use a 250 here for our reference. And that being said, slide over to the captain side and we'll bug 250 as well. airport elevation is 22 feet. Touchdown zone is the same as the airport elevation. The MSA is 2,000 feet. The missed approach is to turn left, continue climbing on the missed approach to holding pattern at AMPAS 3,000 feet. Now, if this is set up appropriately, if we go down here to the hold page, AMPAS should be in here. AMPAS, and it looks like we've got a right turn. Inbound course is 216, and right turns, and that checks out. Yep, northeast radial 360. Alright, that's all in there. So if we really needed to, we could just select LNAV on a go around, and we would just follow the other LNAV. Otherwise, we've got an ALSIF, rail lights, PAPIs, supposedly on the left side. And the runway itself is 12,000 feet. Nope. 9,186 feet. Should plan for a right turn off there at Alpha 3. And the way to like to do it down in Cancun is you'll take Alpha 3, you'll take Delta, all on tower frequency, and then we'll have you hold short here if you don't get in contact with ground by then. Usually we'll try to call ground here on Delta, but if you don't get to talk to ground by then, just hold short of Delta 1 and contact ground. And usually they'll either take you in here at Delta 1 or what do you call it? I guess Bravo 4? Is that right? Yeah, Bravo 4, yeah. And let's see, where we're going to park. Let's see, the real aircraft is going to gate 33, which is going to be over here. So we can just take Bravo 4 to 33 over here. So that'll be the plan. Minimize this really quickly. Our reference speed here. Generally, we are going to land with flaps 25. What's the reason why again? So I remember reading up on it a while ago. It's like something about you can get to flaps 25 more quickly from like flaps 20. So anything above, you can go all the way down to flaps 20 without getting the landing configuration. You won't get the gear warning horn telling you that the gear isn't down at flaps 20. And if you go beyond flaps 20, then you get the little gear warning horn sound. So I think that was one of the reasons. I can't remember what else. It's in our manuals, but flaps 25 is kind of the called default setting for landing. You can use 30 all you want to. It's just 25 is just kind of what we usually do. So we'll set that reference here. When I do that, it should set the bugs up automatically. And just in the event it doesn't do this for like the Bluebird or something, essentially flaps 25, the reference speed we're going to use is actually flaps 30, regardless of if you're landing flaps 25. So you're going to add essentially flaps 5 speed here, and your flaps up speed is going to be flaps 5 is going to be your flaps 30 speed, reference speed plus 40. So in this case, 165. There's a little bit of parallax there. Yeah, that's right about 165. And then plus 80 from this speed is 205. So that's generally about 205 too. So if it doesn't set automatically for you, that's what you're doing. And these bugs are essentially telling you that before you get to this bug right here, you need to have flaps 1 set. Before you get to this, you need to have flaps 5 set. Now obviously you can have them set well before that, so long as you're within limits here. And if you don't know what your limits are, they're wrapped around your flap indication here. And generally we're going to set, so the speed limit for flaps 1 is 240 obviously, so when we get at or below 230, that's when most people will set flaps 1. So when you're going below 10 knots below the limit speed here, it's kind of what we do. But oh my goodness, don't do that. So yeah, when you are going below the speed limits, 10 knots below the speed limits, generally when we start to set the flaps out. because we can go all the way down to that 206 here and have the flaps up, but I'll tell you what, that nose is going to be sitting pretty high, about like 7.5 degrees or so, which is honestly kind of average, kind of what the aircraft does. Especially like you get to down to 210, you'd have the flaps up, your nose is going to be high. It's just how the aircraft is designed, I guess. Am I missing something? I am. Auto brakes. And again, default setting, what we kind of use is actually auto brakes 3. We tend to want to burn up, and I don't mean that literally, but you know, we want to use the brakes more than we want to use the reverse thrust, just because right now anyway, the company would prefer us replace brakes than replace engines, because obviously not a whole lot of RB211s or Pratt Whitneys left in which airline you're in, left around to just break them here and there. So rather burn brakes and use engines up using a reverse thrust. So auto brakes 3 works out really well on the dry runway. We've got a lot of runway here, so I actually think, oops, I think we'll actually use, now we'll stick auto brakes 3. Auto brakes 3 and like idle reverse, mint. Alright, coming up to the top of descent here. The controls in the real world, that's what's a real aircraft. As we get the warning here to reset the altitude, they tend to descend us a little bit earlier, and then at some point they'll tell us to go ahead and descend via no sat whenever the start is. So we'll go ahead and start down 310 for now. And this is kind of a method I like to use in the real world. Like I said, say they told us to descend flight level 310. I'll set 310. I started descent, just a small descent, and then if we are within 40 miles of the top of descent, I'll go ahead and go into the descent page and kind of get the aircraft to get off of cruise mode, just tell it to descend now, which should be an executable. It should give us the option to execute it, so it should just go straight to descent now. But anyway, I can start the descent now, and then we'll go to progress page 2 just to kind of get an idea of how far I'm getting off of this descent track here. So I do that just to kind of I guess ease our way into the descent, because if I were to just let it get to the top of the descent, it's gonna bring the power slowly down to idle, but at the same time, it's just gonna dip the nose down. It's just gonna descend at idle for us, whereas in this case it's a little bit more gradual, and I don't know, I just prefer it that way. For the most part, that's how we had to descend in the CRJ. Some of them had the VNAV, and some guys would wait until you get to the top of the descent, then you'd have to chop the power, you'd feel the aircraft descend, and I'm like, you know what, if I can get to the point where a pilot or a flight attendant is deadheaded in the back of the aircraft and they can't tell that we're descending, then I'm like, alright, that's kind of how good I want to get into the, how gradual I want to get into the descent. So ever since then, that's kind of what I like to do. Now, some days, not always, some days I'm just like, alright, screw it, 310, VNAV, whatever, you aircraft, you do it, I'm just too lazy. But I think it's a lot more comfortable this way. Now, just nitpicking here, but also, I can't speak for other aircraft, but we wouldn't see how far as we're getting closer to the path here. Start to increase my descent rate. You can't tell how close you are to this, what we call the football. You can't tell how close it is until we're plus or minus 400 feet. So the only way we can tell if we're plus or minus 400 feet is actually looking at the progress page 2 here. After that, that's when the football starts to move, but you can see it well beyond that. So, again, just to point out the differences between the flight factor and what you would see in a regular plane. So once the football actually gets to see, I don't know why it's doing this. Power's idle. It should literally have just continued to descend away. It should have right there. I don't know why it's stopping its descent right now. Actually, I know exactly why. because for some reason it's chasing that 0.78 Mach, and it wants to get down there first before it starts to descend, which again I could change, and which is the whole reason why I wanted to change it, because it would have just kept on. Still can't change it. It would have just kept on descending normally like it should have, but now it wants to slow down, so it stops our descent rate. Now it's on the back end, and if we're going too fast, it asks me to put the speed brakes out, which is just silly. Especially up here in the like 30s, man. You put the speed brakes out, like you just. If I were to nick it like that, like I wouldn't say it would kick you off your seat, but you're definitely gonna feel it. Oh shoot, it's capturing the altitude. Alright, let's continue our descent. That one's on its own. So let's just go and continue the descent down to what they should tell us. It's been a while since I've been on kick. They'll tell you to descend via the Milsat 1. So yeah, we would actually set 3,000 feet. They'll tell you to descend to via the Milsat 1. We'll set 3,000 feet, but then they'll like later come back and tell you to descend at 3,000 feet, so whatever. We'll set 3,000 feet, which is the bottom altitude here. So we've got essentially gates here. We've got a gate to fly into, gate to fly into. We've got to be at our, or got to be below 14 there. We've got to be at or above these altitudes. So the first fix here with the hard altitude is 3,000, which is why we actually set 3,000 feet, because essentially if it's also descend via, you can't descend past 3,000 feet there, because that's the limit. So that's why we set 3,000 there. And at this point, the captain would have, I never did turn the seatbelt sign off, but we would have told the crew that, you know, we're 20 minutes out. What is the weather? Still variable winds. Alright, slight wind from the, almost on the pipe now. 2 knots. Still IFR broken, towering cumulus clouds. Still pretty warm, 29 degrees. What is that? 80. Minus 9, 5, that's 32, 84 degrees. So actually not too warm down there. And altimeter is 2999. So a lot of the captains will go ahead and just set the altitude here on the standby. Maybe as a reference, but that's just one less thing you've got to do once we get down to below 18,000 feet. Speaking of, I think the bottom is 18.5 here. 19.5, transition level is 19.5, sorry. Sam says hello. If getting high would be the ideal speed. If getting high, what would be the ideal speed fucking fig to get down as quickly as possible without dropping the gear? Realistically, man, those boards, they work really, really, really well on these aircraft. Anything above flaps 5 will start to slow the airplane down. Flaps 1 realistically is like, I think it's half the slats. Flaps 5 is, we'll get full slats, excuse me. We'll get full slats, and then you get like 5 degrees of flaps. So all of that does nothing but create lift. So yeah, it'll slow you down a little bit, but not as much as anything beyond 5 degrees of flaps. Especially the 300. The 300 is really, really, really hard to slow down once you start to get into like. You try to get below, I'll say maybe like 100 or 210 knots or so. So if you're way out in the boondocks, say like you're doing the CV approach into LA, and you know it's essentially like a straight in approach, and ATC starts to slow you way back. It like tells you, like 210 knots, you're 20 plus miles out still, and you're trying to, you've intercepted glide slope already. There's no way you're slowing down. You know, using flaps 1 or flaps 5 beyond like 220 knots or so. Like you're gonna have to use the speed brakes. and or get the flaps out to at least 15 or so. $18.25 is our ETA, and I was confused for 1 second because I thought it says here it's 1:25 local time. I don't know why I thought I was going to land at 2 o'clock local time here. It's another 20 minutes from now. Anyway, oh, see, what are we doing? Airplane, what are you doing? It's slowing to 250 knots. Okay, which I think is good. I remember there was a 250 knot limit at there's Hacho. Good, 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 bird. Yes, ma'am. Okay, we like this. All right, so let's pitch down now. Good VNAV. All right. Liking this. So they like to teach us in the sims that on the descent you should monitor progress page 2 just because it gives you your vertical track error here. I've had captains tell me that, and that's just really like an old habit from older airplanes. Realistically, if you've got the VNAV program the way it should, and the darn thing is armed and working like it should, you got the football right there. It should just follow it like it's supposed to, so you don't necessarily have to. But honestly, at this point, I've been doing it for just a little bit over a year and a half. I'm used to keeping that page up on the descent. Because so long as you check your windows here, and the star should have built the approach the way it should be anyway. But I mean, if you checked it out and everything works out, or everything checks like it should be in the star, then yeah, it should follow it. But like I said, this one's have it. Okay, so we already passed the transition level. I completely forgot there. It's 19.5, not 18,000 feet, but we'll set the altimeter to 908. And I've said it before in other streams, but if you guys are flying left seat, or right seat rather, you want to be careful because your high fidelity aircraft, I'm pretty sure like your Phoenixes, your PMDGs, if you have your ATC source selected to, let's say you're flying right seat and you've got it selected to 1, it should be pulling from your information from the right side. So like if I were to, how do I explain this? If I'm flying right seat, I want to make sure it's on autopilot 2. If I'm flying left seat, I want to make sure it's on autopilot 1, because if you have it in the opposite way, and the aircraft is a high fidelity aircraft like it should be, it's going to be pulling the information from that side of the ATC. So ATC 1's captain side, ATC 2's first officer side. That matters because on a transition like this, you go from 29 or 902 to whatever the meter setting is. If you're high, like we are today at 29 or 908, if the captain sets theirs to 29 or 908, it's not going to change your profile at all. Not until you go in here and change yours, then the aircraft is going to be like, oh, now we're too high. Now we're too low. It looks like it doesn't matter at all because I just cranked it to like 30, 15, and 29.7, and nothing happened. But if I were to move it on the captain side here, the aircraft's going to be like, way too high, way too low. Watch. Way too low, way too high. So that's why. Obviously, I guess it's good to know because I was always curious if that mattered or not here on Flight Factory, but I guess it doesn't. But just do it out of habit anyway. But just something else for you guys to watch out on your higher fidelity aircraft. Alright, through 18, I think we're still running through the descent checklist like half an hour ago. Descent checklist, lots of orders. We got 2-9er, 2-9er, 8 minimums. Barrow is 250. That's cross-check. Landing data, we've got our ref of flaps 25, ref is 127. That is checked. Approach briefing is complete. Brakes 3 are set. Seatbelt signs are on. Pressurization panel is set. And recall is checked. Alright, I think that'll do it with the music here. If I didn't say it before, descent checklist is complete. Oh, there she is. Beautiful Cancun. What do we got down there? Oil rig? Oh yeah, I forgot. They've got like the boats or whatever here in X-Plane now. Supposedly it's like actual routes or something like that. Or is it like fake and get out of here? Oh, check it out! Look at all those containers. And apparently it's raining. What are we doing in here? No sats. We're supposed to slow to 220 at UN 500, so at some point down there. Should kick the speed back and we'll start slowing down here. Alright, approach checklist. Let's go ahead and set this up. So 10.7, inbound 125, that checks out here. Flight and nav instruments have been verified. Cabin notification is complete. And altimeters 98 is cross check. Let's go ahead and turn lights on. Actually, we'll leave everything but the nose gear light on. We'll turn that on lastly when we know we've got our, well, when we clear ourselves essentially, the approach here. Speaking of which, CTAF is going to be tower north side 18.1. Hey, 18.1 again. Oops, oh, 18.3, never mind. 18.1 it is. And we are slowing down. Looking for 220, however. So once the speed gets down to about 230 or so, I may have to put the boards out here for this. Probably have to. Yep. Yeah, she's struggling to slow down. Here's the idle. Oh, never mind. Let's see what she does. Nope, asking for drag. Never mind. Alright, so we'll do that really gently. There's 230. We'll bring flaps 1 up. Like that sound. Maybe. Maybe I don't. I guess that's the engine actually. I thought that was the flaps. Okay. Alright, so what do they say here? They'll clear us directly it'll say something like clear direct to 8,000 feet, or not sorry, 8,000 feet, but down to 3,000 feet. So essentially, we don't have to, we don't need to be at or above 6,000 feet here at UN 522. So for that reason, we'll use flight level change, and we'll keep the speed at 220 knots since that was the last bubble speed here. If they need to, if we need to slow down any more, then it'll tell us to do that. But now we're essentially on an idle descent, and we're just trying to get down to 3,000 feet as fast as we can here. And if we're on profile, honestly, it should keep us pretty much close to the profile. Where it's an idle descent. And it should be right to be in the airport right now, actually. And you can't see it. Because it's kind of IFR. The funny thing about Cancun, it's hard to see right now, but it's like beaches, city, and then you get east of it, and it is nothing. And I mean nothing but like forest for miles and miles. Yeah, it's getting bumpy. Jeez, some pretty big corrections there the autopilot's making. Didn't realize it was that bad. Alrighty, let me see. UN 2 529. Let's go here. 529. It's 3,000 feet. So plan on making that left turn here relatively soon. Let's go ahead and slow down to 200 knots. Alright, speed's good. Let's bring flaps down to 5. Just not realizing this, you see the reflection right there. It's pretty cool. I think that's painted on. I don't think that's actually like the reflection. That's pretty cool though. The wings that bounce. Okay, so there's Erdam. I am going to go ahead and turn left here to 15 if I can get that. My goodness, get the freaking bug. There it is. And select's active. Let's go ahead and extend this out from UN 529. And inbound course is to 125. I like it. Execute that. Speed out cap, 2,000 feet, 3,000, or 2,200 knots, excuse me. 200 knots and 3,000 feet. Not sure why we're climbing. Ready. Looking good. Let's go ahead and turn left inbound 180. Cleared for the approach here. So select 180 on the heading and on the localizer. A little bit of a break out there. And localizer is captured. I think that is the initial fix there. Yes, it is. And is that roughly? It's still 9 miles out, so we'll do 180 knots until we're about what do you call there? 532. And 532. So let's go slow to 180 knots until 5 out. Clear ourselves to the approach here. Turn the landing or nose gear light on, and I don't think anyone is there. Doesn't look like anybody's home, but be courteous and we shall make a call. It's roughly 10 miles out there, 9.1 from 529. Cancun traffic, American 2422 is on 10 mile final runway 12 left at Cancun. Alrighty. Speed's good. So again, this is perfectly fine where we've got flaps 5 already set and we are slowing down. But again, you can see how high the nose attitude gets, which again is really realistic. But once we start to, oh shoot, did I glass up? These FOs. Alright, glide slip is active. But yeah, so what I was going to say was the aircraft starts to have a hard time slowing down and going down once you start to get like low, I don't know, 210 knots or so. So flaps 15 usually works out pretty good to keep your speed like in check here. So flaps 15 for now. And since we already got the glide slope is armed, let's go and select our, actually Mr. Perch altitude is 3,000 feet, so Mr. Perch altitude is already set there. Get rid of this guy. Is this supposed to be, this looks like a range shaft, but I don't know if that's what that's actually supposed to be here next to me, but if that's like, if those are range shafts, then that's pretty legit. Look at you trying to be like 2020. Alright. Getting sidetracked there, so let's go bring the gear down. And we can go ahead and slow down here. What was our ref? 127? That's not it. So 127 plus 5, 132, flaps 220. Can barely make out the rubber now. And let's get still good. Flaps 2. Checklist. It's RMD water bottle. RMD speed brakes. And line checklist. Line gear is down. Flaps. Got 25 there, 25 there. Speed brakes are on. Checklist is complete. Alright, I'll embarrass myself here. Let's kick autopilot off. And 1,000 feet with 32 there. Where's my autopilot? There it is. thing set me up for failure, guys. Look, we're slow, we're low. Making me look bad. That's my excuse anyway. Alright, airport's hitting the runways inside here. I'm going to disconnect the throttle. Alright, middle on the high side. Let's get this figured out. Need a little bit more power. Jeez, getting higher. Alright, power's looking good. It's sending me faster than 1,000 feet here. We got a lot of those up trim now. Alright. It's 2 reds, 2 whites. 30 feet, power down to idle, almost just nose. Doop. Idle reverse. And, oh man, I'll tell you what, I think the auto brakes here to 1. Working a whole lot better than actually doing the real aircraft. I'm just going to disarm them, we're still a little ways back here. Here's 80 knots. Sam, and reverse off, and once the captain takes the reverse, excuse me, off, I'll start the clock here for our 2-minute cooldown, and we'll go through the after landing flow. So we'll bring the spoilers up, I'll bring the flaps up. Cancel the ILS frequency here, flight directors off, auto brakes off, and we're going to turn the light off. So we try to multitask here. Light off, light off, light off, thank you. And at some point, we'll turn the APU on here. Pretty cool that they actually have this bridge modeled. There we go. Oops, it should be on. And I want to say, like, the last 2 or 3 times I've been down here, I've always had to wait for a gate. So, got an idea. Gonna hold short of Bravo. And we'll check out the replay. See just how well I did. Alright, park brake sets. And let's go ahead and log off of file it there. Let's toggle replay and run it back. That bare metal. I love this airplane, and those bogies just like leaning back like that, man. It's like a freaking eagle coming in the way. Call that a professional landing. Not the it's not the most gentle, but definitely got the job done. Yeesh. And then the runway 2 in like Cancun is not the most it's not the smoothest, so it's just gonna add on to it. But hey, like I like to say, you know, they can use the airplane again. Dude, I actually like that sound right there. Donk. Yeah, not too shabby, guys. I will say, when it comes to slowing the airplane down, like those auto brakes, I think the airplane just slows down a little bit more than it actually does in the real world. I mean, I'm talking like just, it's, I don't know, 20% more so. It's really not that much, but just me complaining about stuff because I can. But no. Let's get out of this mode here and let's take her to the gate. Call it a day. Alright, so APU's up and running. Okay, so this is the other thing I was trying to tell you guys about that APU to pack start. So APU's up and running now. At some point before we get to the gate, we want to have the air conditioning just running straight from the APU, right? Because at this point, like engines are idle, and you're not going to have that big an output for your duct pressure here. So if we were to use the APU, then obviously you're going to get like max pressure, the best air from your APU, for lack of a better word. So if I were to turn the bleeds off and put the isolation valve, open the isolation valve, and open up the APU just like we would in the real world, now, for whatever reason, it gives us the left and right engine bleeds off, which is what we should have seen initially when we did the APU to PAX takeoff. We should have seen the left and right bleeds, and then we should have seen the right pack off like that, minus that little reserve or hydraulic reservoir pressure. I'm not sure why we see that right now, but we should have seen those 3 messages here on the departure. So it's I'm not entirely sure why it's like that, but whatever, just pointing things out here. But we definitely should see what we're seeing right now. But anyway, let's go ahead and take her to the gate here. Call it a day, guys. Going to 33, which I'm hoping is not the one that's occupied. Nope, it's not. I think so. 35, 34. Oops, right next to it. Let's go ahead and shut the right motor down. Damn right, 75200. Oh no, that's the worst thing. Have an airplane stop before you get to the actual line here. Alrighty, parking brake set. Parking brake is in fact set, and the pressure is good there. Seatbelt signs off and shut this down. Thank you there, Volanta, and then I'll zero out our. That's test. Stand by. Transponder goes to 0 all around. Then get the right recirc fan off. Captain's gonna turn the hydraulics off, left to right now. So electrics off, one, center 1 and 2, and then the right side off, and the fuel pumps off, and the beacon off at some point. I think some guys like to wait for the chocks to be put in. Some guys just turn off right away, but read the shutdown checklist. Park and brake is get rid of view. Park brake set. Hydraulic panel set. Fuel pump switches are off. Seatbelt signs off. Engine AS off. Fuel control switches are cut off, and transponder is standby. Shutdown checklist complete. L2 door there, Margaret. L2 door. Okay. Chocks are in. GPU. Fuel truck. Air conditioning. And let's get the whole gang out here. Bang, 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 bang. And once we've got enough air out here, is it hooked up? Should be hooked up. Airplane. Put the AC. Turn APU off. And do it all over again, guys. But that is going to be it for me today. I hope this has been a bit educational for you guys. I keep trying to think about flights to do. I don't have a Discord or anything like that, so I don't know, maybe I'll make a poll or something, but I'm probably not going to stream again until next week, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. Again, I try to do this on Wednesdays. I think they're the best days for my schedule right now, but honestly, at this point, I just gotta play things week by week, day by day, so that's all I got. Next, I think the next, I will say this, I've been trying to come up with ideas, it's because I got nothing else to do during cruise. I just think of like different stream ideas I could do. I'm thinking about a stream, especially since I've got recurrent coming up here, where I just talk about the entire overhead panel here. Eventually, I'd like to get to literally every switch for in the aircraft here, what they do, because like, invariably I get people coming up here like, wow, do you know which every switch does here, or what every switch does? I'm like, to varying degrees, yes, I do. So I think it'd be kind of fun just to talk about what every switch does here. We'll start with the overhead. I'm kind of working on it, and it's not like an in-depth discussion. I'm thinking just like it's kind of surface level, like what does this button do? You switch it to what does this light do? You see the IRS is flashing, the white lights flashing. What does that mean? Things like that. So I'm still trying to figure out how I want to do it exactly, since not everything in here is modeled. I definitely do want to. I'm probably going to do it again once Bluebird comes out with their aircraft, since I'm assuming everything there is going to be modeled. So I'm thinking maybe just like a little bit of a trial run, kind of do like a version 1 with the flight factor, and then maybe like a version 2 once Bluebird comes out with their aircraft. But we'll start off with the overhead. We'll see how that works, how you guys like it. I'll release it at some point. Again, I've got recurrent coming up this month, so I'm not entirely sure how that's gonna work with trying to study for that, and then at the same time trying to make a video for it too. So we'll see. That being said, look out for the video upcoming sometime next week. Again, Tuesday, Wednesday is probably going to be the best chance. If I can do it again later that week, then I will. But I do have a trip coming up on next Friday on the 10th. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it.